Assalamu alaikum students, we are in your second lesson in your book. It's in Unit 5, Module 19, Introduction to Plants, Lesson 3, Plant Reproduction. In this lesson, technically, we're going to talk about how do plants reproduce, and this is what is given here in the focus question. Like every and each new lesson, we have new vocabs that you will learn by the end of the lesson. The beginning of our class, we start with providing a definition of vegetative reproduction. So, vegetative reproduction is a form of asexual reproduction, like I already summarized here or highlighted in red. Asexual reproduction means we do not have two different parents, instead, other ways are followed, where the new plant grows from parts of the old plant. The new individual that will come to this life, they will be clone. What does it mean, clone? Of the original plant. It means they will be a copy-paste of the parent or the original plant, since they will just copy the genetic material and take this copy to have their own lives. So this is what is meant by clone. The advantage of vegetative reproduction is the very short amount of time, so it's considered as a very fast way of reproduction. The production of uniform offspring, this is what is explained here in the second statement. And the last one, can produce fruits or fruit without seeds. To keep reminding you about what does it mean vegetative reproduction, let's remember. In term 2, we studied 4 different types of vegetative reproduction, but in the table given here, I already summarized the 6 types of vegetative reproduction, starting with the binary fission, that we took it in the lesson of bacteria, budding also, spore formation, fragmentation, which is the breaking down of small part that later on, if found in good conditions, will grow up, the regeneration, and lately, or the last one, which is vegetative reproduction, that we are taking in nowadays in plants. Returning back to our slides, and let's see what is there. In the next slide, they are talking about something called alternation of generations. What does it mean, alternation of generation? Well, according to the chart given to us regarding the alternation of generation here, in this case we are talking about the life cycle of most plants that includes diploid 2N sporophyte stage and haploid gametophyte stage. The two colors shows the two stages. The first one is sporophyte, in which we have the appearance of the new plant that forms after fertilization with the zygote that contains the full set of chromosome 2N, okay? And after a series of mitotic cell division, it's going to grow up until it became mature, in which it's going to be able to produce the new reproductive forms through the process called meiosis. And as we already studied earlier, remember that reproductive cells, they contain half the amount of DNA or chromosomes, and that's why we have here, since we are talking about gametophytes or the spores who are in charge of giving the new individual, we have only one N, okay? So the second part here, as you see with the blue color, it is representing the process of making the reproductive cells or the gametophyte. And this is what is mentioned here as haploid cells. So, two phases represent the formation of or the growth of the plant itself, and here the formation of the gametophyte through the process of meiosis. Remember, 2N, this is due to that here we are talking about an individual with full set of chromosome or DNA. And here we are talking about the formation of reproductive cells. Remember, all the time we are keeping, or I keep reminding you that they do contain half amount of DNA. Why? Because the reproductive cells, they will be used later on, okay, to fertilize and to give one new individual called zygote with full set of DNA. So half from the mother, half from the father, or let's say half from one gamete and half from the male gamete, and the new individual later on will have the correct and the proper amount of chromosomes. Violet orange, deep purple, ghostly white, fragrant, rancid, spectacular, and awesome. All are terms can be used to describe flowers. The colors, shapes, and size of flowers are determined by each species' genetic makeup. It's important to remember that flowers can vary in structure and form and vary from one species to another one. In each, though the flower has one main function is to ensure that the plant reproduces successfully. What makes the flower the most important part in the plant, this is what we see now. As you see here in the picture, flowers have several organs. Some parts provide support or protection, while others can be involved directly in reproduction. In general, flowers have 4 organs: sepal, petal, pistil, and stamen. As illustrated also in your books, page 525 and figure 20, the one which is shown here. Sepals, the one that is here with purple or blue or whatever, you can see it here, protects the flower buds and can look like small leaves or even resemble the flower's petal. Sorry, this is the sepal. Okay, the one which is beneath, still with green color. Okay, so they provide support and protection to the petals. While the petals usually are colorful structures that can both attract pollination and provide them with a landing platform. Sepals and petals, if present, are attached to a flower stalk called a peduncle. So this is the peduncle here, where the sepal and the petal, they are stuck to the other part of the plant. Most flowers have several stamens. This is the stamen, you see. It might have one or many. Okay? Which is considered as the male reproductive organs. As the stamen is composed of 2 parts, the filament and the anther. Let's see another picture, please, so you can see how it is composed of. So this is the picture that shows clearly the stamen, which is composed of the anther and the filament that hold it. The filament or stalk support the anther. Inside the anther are cells that undergo meiosis and then mitotic cell division, forming pollen grains. So the pollen grains are inside the anther, where they are undergoing through meiosis or series of division that help the spores or to form to be able later on to use in the fertilization of the egg. 2 sperms eventually form inside each pollen grain. Each sperm cell will eventually fertilize a different structure inside the female reproductive organs. This is the process that we will later on return back in details. The female reproductive organ, returning back to our slide, previous one, the female reproductive organ, which is the pistil. The female reproductive organ of a flower is the pistil. In the center of the flower is one or more pistil. A pistil usually has 3 parts: the stigma, the stele, and the ovary. And this is what we're going to see next in the next slide. Here is the picture of the pistil, as I told you earlier, which is made of 3 parts: the stigma, the stele, and the ovary. The stigma is the tip of the pistil and or where pollination occurs at this level. The anther will make the pollen grains come to the stigma. Okay, it's very close. Usually it's here in this part. So the pollen grains, they will come and they will fail on the stigma that receive them and let them go to the next part, which is called the stele. So the stele is the part that connects the stigma to the ovary that contains one or more ovum. The still, if you want to use your own words, you want me to use your own words, it's only a passage of the pollen grains from the stigma to reach the ovary, where you will find, or they will find, the egg or the ovule. A female gametophyte develops in each ovule, and an egg forms inside each female gametophyte. So obviously the ovary here, we will find, or the grain pollens, they will find the eggs that will be fertilized by the pollen. The last point we will discuss in this lesson is about structural differences. Actually, flowers, all of them, they contain the structures we already talked about. But we have like some other kind of classification. So flowers that have sepals, petals, stamens, and one or more pistils are called complete flower. So let's highlight the most important part, then you can recognize how to differentiate between these types of flowers. And here let's highlight it with red and make it on bold, so you can focus on how is the first category different than the others. So here we have sepals, petals, stamens, and one or more pistils. Let's make it in red so you can notice how much it's important. So this is called complete flower. Let's just make it in bold here in black. If a flower is missing one or more of these organs, it's incomplete flower. See here, let's make this in red and bold as well. So if a flower misses one of the following component, it is considered as incomplete flower. Flowers that have both stamens and pistils are perfect flowers. So if they have both stamens and pistils, let's make it in red, in bold here, they are considered as perfect flowers. And the flowers that have only functional pistils or stamens, let's make this in red because this is actually what makes the difference. Have only as well, I want it in red and bold so you can notice what I want you to focus on. Flowers that have only functional pistils, let's underline it please, or stamens, it means one of them, they are considered as what? As imperfect flowers. And let's highlight it here. Sorry, we're gonna just make bold. So we have 4 different types of flowers according to the component. They do have complete flowers if it has all the component, incomplete flower if it is missing only one part. It is considered as perfect flower if it has both stamens and pistils, and it is considered as imperfect flower if it has only, focus with me on this word, functional pistil or stamen, which means only one of them. We are in the end of the lesson. Hopefully that you understand very well. If you have any questions, you know exactly what you're supposed to do. Waiting for your questions. Thank you very much for listening.